When Kenya walked out of prison, the gates closed behind her. She was free. But freedom did not mean she had somewhere to go. The world outside had continued without her. She returned to the same city, the same streets, the same places that had once swallowed her childhood. But Kenya was no longer the same person. Inside Dormitory 10, she had discovered something powerful. She had learned that caring for another human being could become an act of resistance. And she brought that lesson with her. Kenya returned to the streets and began helping other women protect themselves. She distributed condoms. She spoke openly about HIV. She helped women access testing, treatment, and information that could save their lives. The system had once treated Kenya as if her life had no value. Now she was determined to show other women that theirs did. But the streets were still dangerous. And on the night of September 30th, 2016, everything changed again. Kenya was working alongside her friend, Paola Buenrostro. Paola entered a client's car. Moments later, Kenya heard her calling for help. Then came the gunshots. Kenya ran towards the vehicle. Paola had been shot. The man inside turned the weapon towards Kenya and pulled the trigger, but the gun jammed. Kenya survived. She and the other women stopped the man from escaping and held him until the police arrived. Kenya recorded what was happening. There were witnesses. There was a weapon. There was a man detained at the scene. And Paola was dead. It appeared impossible for the truth to be ignored. But 2 days later, the man was released. The authorities said there was not enough evidence to keep him in custody. Paola had been murdered in front of witnesses. And still, the system allowed her suspected killer to walk away. That night did not only take Paola's life. It destroyed Kenya's belief that justice would arrive on its own. Kenya could have returned to the streets and tried to forget. She could have accepted what society had told her for years, that women like her were expected to disappear. But Kenya refused. She transformed her grief into anger. And then she gave that anger a purpose. She marched through the streets. She blocked roads. She stood outside government buildings. She carried a coffin during protests and demanded that the authorities listen. She demanded that Paola be remembered by her name, not as a statistic, not as an unidentified body, not as a man, but as Paola Buenrostro, a woman, a friend, a human being whose life mattered. Kenya was threatened. She was ignored. She was mocked. But she continued because she understood that Paola was not the only one. There were other trans women who had been murdered, other bodies that nobody came to claim, other families that rejected them even after death, other names that disappeared inside police files. So Kenya began doing what the system would not. She accompanied the dead. She searched for their families. She helped organize funerals. Sometimes she was the only person standing beside the coffin. Kenya had spent much of her own life being abandoned. Now, she refused to abandon anyone else. In 2018, she founded Casa de las Muñecas Tiresias. It began as an organization supporting trans people, sex workers, people living with HIV, people leaving prison, and others who had been pushed to the edges of society. They helped people receive health care. They provided legal assistance. They helped them obtain identity documents. They offered education, employment support, and a place where someone would finally listen. Then Kenya created something she had needed since she was 9 years old. A home. Casa Hogar. Paola Buenrostro became Mexico's first shelter created specifically for trans women. It carried Paola's name above its doors. Inside, women escaping violence could sleep without wondering whether someone would attack them during the night. Women leaving prison could find support instead of immediately returning to the streets. Trans migrants arriving with almost nothing could receive food, protection, and a chance to begin again. Kenya had once been a child searching for somewhere safe to sleep. Now, she was opening doors for others. But her fight for Paola continued. In 2019, Mexico City's Human Rights Commission officially recognized the failures and discrimination surrounding Paola's case. For the first time, the commission formally recognized her murder as a transfemicide. In 2021, the Mexico City Prosecutor's Office publicly apologized for the violations committed against Paola and Kenya. It could not bring Paola back, but the government was finally forced to admit that it had failed them. Kenya continued fighting. In 2023, her organization opened Mexico's first mausoleum dedicated to trans people. It was created for those whose families had rejected them, for those whose bodies had remained unclaimed, for those who had been buried without dignity, without their chosen names, and sometimes without anyone saying goodbye. The mausoleum had space for 149 people. Paola would finally have a permanent home, a place where her identity could never again be erased. And then, in 2024, 8 years after Paola's murder, Mexico City approved the law bearing her name. The Paola Buenrostro law made transfemicide a specific crime in the capital, punishable by decades in prison. The law could not undo the injustice of Paola's case. But because Kenya refused to remain silent, future crimes could no longer be treated as if the identity of the victim did not matter. Kenya's story is not simply the story of someone who survived. It is the story of a child abandoned by her family, who created a family for others. A woman who slept on the streets, who built a shelter. A prisoner placed inside dormitory 10 because she lived with HIV, who became a defender of health and life. A witness whose voice was dismissed, who forced institutions to listen, and a friend who stood beside a murdered woman and made sure the world learned her name. Kenya was never rescued by the system. She became the person she had needed when she was 9 years old. She became the hand she had needed on the streets, the voice she had needed inside prison, and the home she had needed when every other door was closed. Kenya once said, "Our greatest revenge will be to be happy." Perhaps that is her greatest victory. Not only that she survived everything designed to destroy her, but that she used the pieces of her broken past to build something that could protect others. Kenya Cuevas did not disappear. She made it impossible for others to disappear in silence. And somewhere, above the entrance to a home filled with second chances, Paola's name remains. Not as the name of a victim, but as the name of a movement, a shelter, a law, and a promise that no life should ever be treated as disposable. This is the story of Kenya Cuevas, the girl the world abandoned, who grew up and refused to abandon anyone.